Welcome back, everybody, to the Miami Marlins franchise here on MLB The Show 23. In the last episode, we kicked off season number 1 with a nice win on opening day against the New York Mets, and we got through the first few weeks of April, currently sitting at a record of 8-11. The team is not playing dreadfully, but we're also not playing all that well either. Currently in third place in the National League East, a game ahead of the Mets. That's cool. In today's episode, we're going to wrap up April and get through the early portion of May, playing 2 more games and going over scouting for the first time this season. I'm excited to introduce you guys to some of the prospects in this year's draft class. But before we do anything, I want to go over my settings and sliders real quick. I know a lot of people are getting their hands on the standard edition of the game today, and I've gotten a few questions about what settings I use. I play on all-star hitting and pitching difficulty. Then here's the rest of my gameplay settings. So if you want to give them a try, go for it. And let me know what you think of them down below in the comments section. As for my presentation settings, I always prefer to have the pitching and hitting camera angles the same. I know a lot of people use different angles for pitching and hitting, but I've just always preferred the consistency. Obviously, whatever you prefer, you should use, but I've always preferred having the same angle. So normally when I do scouting bits in my franchise episodes with Madden and NBA 2K, I usually put that in the beginning of the episode, but I'm going to try to mix up the style a little bit. We're going to have that in between the first and the second game of today's episode. So we're going to start by putting our attention on the current Marlins. So far, the offense has been pretty up and down. We have some guys playing well, Cooper, Chisholm, Soler. But overall, the offense, for the most part, has been pretty mediocre. It hasn't been terrible, but we are towards the bottom half in most major statistical categories, and our team OPS is below 700, which is not good. The starting pitching has been quite solid. Sandy Alcantara looks great, per usual. In 4 starts this year, he's only allowed 4 earned runs, which is ridiculous. And he is somehow not in the Cy Young voting or in the top 5 of All-Star voting, which is a little bit ridiculous, but okay, whatever. Trevor Rogers is also pitching pretty well, but the other guys in the back end of the rotation have not been as good, particularly Luzardo and Cueto. The bullpen's been very up and down. We have some guys pitching well and some guys really not pitching well. So overall, I would say the bullpen has also been pretty below average, while the starting pitching has been fine. We have the 18th ERA in baseball, hovering right around 4. So I really wanted to play a game in this Cleveland series. We obviously just had a long franchise with the Cleveland Guardians in MLB The Show 22. So I figured for old time's sake, it would be pretty fun to play against them, especially considering the game is in Cleveland. It is worth noting that their ace, Shane Bieber, tore his rotator cuff in spring training and is not playing at all this year. So Caleb Beauregard is their new 5th starter, and we'll be facing off against him here today in the first game of the series. I've got to say, it feels really weird being back at Progressive Field, but playing for the other team. I feel like I should be in Cleveland mode right now, seeing guys like Josh Bell, Jose Ramirez, and George Valera going on the field. I feel like I should be hitting with them. George Valera, for what it's worth, is raking here in his rookie season, and hopefully he ends up just as good as he did in our series because, well, obviously he developed into a very good player in our Guardians franchise last year. Let's take a look at both lineups. The Guardians mixing it up a little bit. Jacob Stallings getting the start behind the dish. Here's a look at Caleb Beauregard, the new 5th starter for Cleveland. He's been fine in 3 starts. Actually, more than fine, I'd say. 1.42 ERA. That's quite good for a guy who was thrusted into the rotation seemingly out of nowhere. With 1 away, he'll face off against Yuli Gurriel, who draws a walk, so the Marlins get an early base runner. That'll bring up Jazz Chisholm, who's only hitting .220, but he is doing a good job of getting extra base hits. He's tied for the team lead in homers with 5 as he hits this one nicely into right field, and that'll go for a single. So the Marlins have 2 early base runners here in the first inning. We'll see if they can drive them in, with Jorge Soler, who's played quite well this season, up to the plate. 2 on, 2 out, full count, and Soler crushes it into center field. No doubt about it. A 3-run monster shot for Jorge Soler. What type of energy do you like? Personally, I prefer Soler power. His second homer of the year, 429 feet, an absolute missile off the bat of Jorge Soler to put the Marlins on the board early as we go into the bottom of the first. The young righty, Edward Cabrera, will be making his 4th start of the year. Ironically, we had Cabrera in the farm system during the Guardians franchise last year, so it's kind of fitting that he's playing against them here. The leadoff man, Andres Gimenez, singles into left, so the Guardians start the game with an early base runner as they look to respond after allowing 3. Stephen Kwan checks his swing on the curveball. Kwan had a great rookie season, has been very good this year as well. 2 away now for Josh Bell, who singles into right. That'll score Jimenez, and the Guardians are on the board as it is now 3-1. Nice swing from Josh Bell as we go into the second. Jacob Stallings getting the start behind the dish today, with Nick Fortes getting the day off as it's a grounder to third. The throw to first is offline. A throwing error from Jose Ramirez, and the Marlins start the inning with an early base runner. We'll see if Miami can capitalize off of this as Luis Arraez draws a walk. Arraez has been pretty disappointing this year after winning the batting title last year, albeit we're only 20 games into the season. So now there's 2 runners aboard here for Gene Segura. He draws a walk, and the bases are loaded. The Marlins just loaded the bases without recording a base hit. Impressive. 1 away for Jazz Chisholm, grounds it to first. The Guardians will look to turn 2, and they do. 3-6-1 double play. That'll end the inning. The Guardians had the bases loaded with nobody out and did not drive anybody in. Into the bottom of the second, an easy inning for Edward Cabrera, who retires the side, finished off by Sevi Zavala, going down looking on a beautiful pitch right down the middle. Don't know why he didn't swing, but we're not complaining. Into the third, Garrett Cooper leads the inning off for the Marlins, hitting over 300 this year, looking to get that average up even more as he singles into center. So the Marlins start the inning with a base runner. The Marlins have done a great job today of getting base runners on early. We'll see if they can capitalize with Jorge Soler next up to the plate. Soler had a 3-run homer in his last at-bat, and this time he draws a walk. I do not blame Beauregard for not wanting to throw in the strike zone against him. 2 on, nobody out. That'll bring up Efisael Garcia, who's also been pretty solid this year. Grounds it over to short, and the Guardians will turn another double play. Or wait, they called Garcia safe at first. I thought he was out, and as we look at the replay, that's as close as it's going to get. Literally decided by milliseconds, but as we get an even closer look, I think Garcia was out. I think that ball gets in Naylor's glove just before he gets to first, but there would be no challenge, and Garcia is aboard. Runners on the corners for Brian De La Cruz, who draws a walk as Miami loads the bases again. That'll bring up the catcher, Jacob Stallings, who hits this one well into left field, and this ball is going to be caught! What a catch by Stephen Kwan! Oh my God! The Marlins will score a run off the sacrifice fly, making it 4-1. But still, good Lord! Stephen Kwan just made an unbelievable catch. A diving grab over the shoulders. I heard the Cleveland Browns could use another wide receiver. Maybe Stephen Kwan is your guy after making a grab like that. Holy smokes. So it's now 4-1, and the Marlins have runners on the corners for Luis Arraez, who singles into right. Run scores, and it is now 5-1. Miami's offense continues to be really impressive today, getting base runners on at will. Let's go bottom 3 now. George Valera, who's hitting .366 this year, singles into center, an early favorite for the American League Rookie of the Year. So Valera is on first. That'll bring up Andres Gimenez, who grounds it to Cooper. Flips it over to Chisholm, playing shortstop today, and he gets it to Cabrera for the 3-6-1 double play. Good work by the Marlins as we go into the fourth. Pitching change for Cleveland. I think this is the right move. Caleb Beauregard was really struggling. Connor Pilkington is in as the long reliever out of the bullpen. He'll start with Yuli Gurriel, who hits this one a mile up into the air, deep in a left field, and this ball is out of here. Solo home run for Yuli Gurriel, his third as a Marlin, and Miami extends the lead as it is now 6-1. I know the offense has been pretty mediocre this year, but it's really good to see them all connecting today. Jazz Chisholm draws a walk, and the Marlins get another early base runner. That'll bring up Garrett Cooper. He hits this one into right, and that is going to drop for a hit. So the Marlins get their first 3 base runners aboard, and even with the pitching change, Miami is still hitting the ball at an elite level. That'll bring up Jorge Soler, homered back in the first inning as he draws another walk, his second of the game. The Marlins have loaded the bases again. They cannot fail this time, and they would fail. The next three batters would be retired, and despite starting the inning with the bases loaded again, the Marlins score nobody after the homer by Gurriel. Jose Ramirez gets plunked to start the bottom of the fourth. So the Guardians get an early base runner. Ramirez looking to steal second, and he is out of there! Jacob Stallings guns him down. Part-time ball player, full-time sniper. Into the fifth, Gene Segura up for the Marlins, and this one is hit down the right field line and fair, likely for extra bases as it goes into the corner out in right field, and Segura slides safely into second. Miami has a runner in scoring position as that'll bring up Yuli Gurriel, who homered in his last at-bat. He hits this one into right. That'll go for a hit. Segura will hold up at third, and so the Marlins have runners on the corners and one away. They're continuing to get base runners. They have to actually capitalize this time. Full count now for Jazz Chisholm. He draws a walk. These Cleveland pitchers cannot consistently find the strike zone as the Marlins load the bases again. They have to capitalize, and they don't. Jorge Soler strikes out. Miami leaves them loaded again. Through 5 innings, the Marlins have left 12 runners on base. That's a lot. If they hadn't gotten some of those guys in early, that storyline would be a real issue. Bottom of the fifth now, Ahmed Rosario draws a walk, so the Guardians get a base runner. That'll bring up Sebi Zavala, who hits this one high and deep into right center, and that one is gone. 2-run shot for Zavala, and the Guardians are back on the board as it is now 6-3. Zavala with his third homer of the season. Edward Cabrera still in the game, trying to make it out of the inning, but Andres Jimenez ropes it down the line fair. Jimenez looks to head for second. The throw from Garcia is in time! They got him! Avisail Garcia with a great throw in right field, gunning him down. That'll bring up Steven Kwan, the 1-1. This one hit into left. Soler chases after it, and he'll make a nice grab. That'll end Edward Cabrera's night. 5 innings, 3 earned runs. Not bad by any stretch as we go into the 6th. Eli Morgan is in for Cleveland. He's struggled so far this year of an ERA right around 7. Ironic, because he is usually quite good in the sim. He does strike out Jesus Sanchez for a quick 1-2-3 inning. Sanchez was obviously a big part of our Cleveland Guardians franchise last year. I felt like I had to get him in at some point today. J.T. Chargois checks into the game here in the bottom of the 6th. He's allowed 10 runs in 10 2/3 innings. Not great. And things don't appear to be getting much better as Jose Ramirez leads the inning off of a single into right field. And then Josh Bell gets his third base hit of the game as this one is into left, likely for extra bases. Ramirez is going to be aggressive and head for home. The throw from Segura is not in time. An RBI double for Josh Bell, and it is now 6-4. The inning would come to an end after that with Ahmed Rosario striking out, but the Guardians are really cutting into this lead as we go into the 7th. Trevor Stephan is in for Cleveland, 2.89 ERA and 9 1/3 innings. Not bad by any stretch, as he starts with Gene Segura, who got a base hit in his last at-bat, but this time he strikes out on the slider. The Marlins' offense has gone cold these last couple of innings, and their bullpen has not looked too hot so far, but hopefully Matt Barnes can switch it around. Barnes has been really good this year, only allowing 1 run in just under 11 innings, as Sebi Zavala singles out one right between his legs, and the Guardians start the inning with another base runner as they look to make this lead even closer. Valera gets plunked. Matt Barnes throwing at him, and Valera's clearly pissed off. Steven Kwan then draws a walk, and the bases are loaded. A rare rough outing from Matt Barnes. Jose Ramirez hits this one nicely into right center field. This one reaches all the way to the track and the wall. It's caught by Avisail Garcia. Zavala will tag up, and the Guardians make it a 1-run game as it is now 6-5 with the tying run on third, whom they would not drive in. Top of the 8th now, 6-5 your score. Garrett Cooper draws a walk, and the Marlins start the inning with a base runner as they continue to have great plate discipline throughout this game. That'll bring up Jorge Soler. He's drawn 2 walks today. He also now has 2 hits. Singling into center field. The Marlins have 2 runners aboard here. They're getting base runners again, but they could not choke this time. Aniel de los Santos checks in out of the bullpen for the Guardians. as he faces off against Avisail Garcia. 2-1 pitch. Garcia grounds it to second. Should be an easy double play. 4-6-3, and that'll end the inning. Good job by De Los Santos to get Garcia to ground into the double play as we go into the bottom of the 8th. A.J. Puck is in for Miami. He's been solid this year, but he allows this ball to be crushed by Josh Naylor into right, and this game is tied up. Solo home run for Naylor, his first of the year, and the Marlins, who once led this game 6-1, have had their lead evaporate. Oscar Gonzalez then strikes out, so we are now tied at 6-6. Going into the 9th inning, Nick Fortes leads it off. He checked in earlier as a defensive substitution, and he draws a walk. That'll bring up Jesus Sanchez, and we've seen him homer a number of times in this stadium. Why not one more? Sanchez clobbers it into center field, and the Marlins take an 8-6 lead here in the top of the 9th. That's Sanchez's first homer of the year, and Miami is back on top. A huge play by Jesus Sanchez. We know him very well from our Guardians series, and now he homers against the Guardians to put Miami back ahead by 2. What a swing from Jesus Sanchez, who's gotten off to a rough start this year. He's really not hit the ball all that well. De Los Santos is yanked out of the game. He'll be replaced by Nick Sandlin. 2 runners on, 2 away for Garrett Cooper. He draws a walk, and the Marlins load the bases for like the 20th time today. I swear to God, if the Marlins leave them loaded, yep, Jorge Soler strikes out on the slider. He got a little too aggressive there. I think the Marlins left the bases loaded at least 4 times today, maybe more. Dylan Floro, the closer, comes into the game here in the 9th. He hasn't been all that good this year, but hopefully he can get the save here as he gets Andres Jimenez to check swing on the outside pitch. And now the game comes down to Steven Kwan. Full count, 2 away. Pitch from Floro, swinging a miss! That sinker was well low, would have been a ball, and Kwan would have been able to draw a walk. But instead, Floro strikes him out, and the Marlins win a very exciting ball game, 8-6. Miami had no problem getting guys on base today. They left the bases loaded a ton of times, but they were ultimately able to capitalize in the end. 11 hits and 12 walks for Miami today. Cleveland had a hard time finding the strike zone. So basically what we said is if you're not going to throw us strikes, we're not going to swing. And our plate discipline was phenomenal throughout the entire duration of the game. Obviously, we had some big hits, the clutch homer by Sanchez in the 9th. As for Cleveland, their offense was fine, but their pitchers couldn't throw strikes, and that's ultimately why they lost this game. So we're going to simulate through the month of April now, wrapping up the series against Cleveland. Then we've got 4 in Atlanta, and then 3 at home against the Cubs. During that 9-game stretch, our closer, Dylan Floro, suffered an elbow injury. He'll be out for 1 to 2 weeks, and Tommy Nance will replace him in the bullpen. We ended up playing fine, going 4-5. We lost the last 2 games against Cleveland. We held our own against the Braves, winning 2 of 4, and then we took 2 against the Cubs. There's a common theme of all of these games, however. In that 9-game stretch, we did not score more than 3 runs once. We have scored less runs than anybody in the National League, and our offense looks like a complete disaster. Before we get into the second game of the episode, as I mentioned earlier, this is where we're going to fit the scouting portion of today's episode. I'm doing it a little bit differently than the prospect profiles that I've done in other series, so let me know what you think down below in the comments. We had some of our scouts go to the Under-18 Nationals Championship game between Venezuela and the United States. We wanted to go to this game specifically because both of these countries have a lot of high school talent in this year's draft class who we wanted to get a look at live. As we take a look at the top players in this class, a number of them are high school aged, and a lot of them play for either Team United States or Team Venezuela. The number 1 prospect in the entire class is center fielder Justin Kramer, who had 2 hits in this game for the United States team. He is the current favorite to be the top pick in this year's draft class, and for good reason. This is a center fielder with legitimate 5-tool upside. I don't think there's any way he falls to the Marlins' first-round pick at number 10 overall, but it was good seeing him play live and up close, and it does look like he is the real deal. First baseman Woody Landry is probably the best pure high school hitting prospect in the entire draft class. He only went 1 for 4 in this game, but his 1 hit was a towering home run. His offensive potential is off the charts. This kid absolutely rakes against both right-handed and left-handed pitching. He's good in terms of contact, and obviously he's got great power. Defensively, he's pretty weak. There's a reason why they have him at first base, but we saw him throw the ball a little bit in warm-ups, and he's got a rocket. I really think he could play right field at the next level because he's got a very impressive arm despite not having great speed or athleticism. However, obviously his calling card is offense, and he very well could be a candidate for Miami's first-round selection at number 10 overall. I looked down the board a little bit trying to find some gems. Tadahito Suzuki was a player I was excited to watch, but I honestly came away unimpressed. He went 0 for 4 with a pair of strikeouts and just did not command the zone at all. Suzuki has Japanese descent, but he's been an American citizen his whole life and was able to play for the American national team. I think he's probably going to end up as a second-round pick, but our scouts seem to think he's overrated and that his performance in today's game is an indication of what to expect in the future. Manuel Rivas, a third baseman who played at IMG Academy last year, was a little bit more impressive. I honestly think he's a first-round talent, and I'm really intrigued to scout him more. He's asking for a very large bonus, and I think a lot of teams don't really want to pay a player of his caliber that type of money, so that's why he's currently being projected outside of the first round. But I think when it's all said and done, he very well could be a top 30 player in this draft class. He's got a great arm, very good glove, pretty good contact hitter, and his power, albeit not great, is not awful either. He's got very advanced plate skills for his age as well, and I'm really intrigued to see more information when we scout him. We've had one of our scouts really focus on pitchers, particularly from the East Coast and international pitchers. There were 2 Venezuelan pitchers I was excited to watch, and neither of them disappointed. The first one was Bo Tejera. He's projected as a second-round pick. Started the game, pitched the first 2 innings, and was very solid. Had a nice strikeout against Woody Landry, the first baseman who we talked about earlier, and I think he could be a real candidate with Miami's second or third pick in this draft. He's very good in terms of strikeouts and walks per 9. He throws hard, and he's got very good control, and he's got a nice breaking ball as well. This is a very well-rounded prospect who I think could be really good. However, the guy who really stole the show in this game was Gustavo Armas, a lefty. He's projected as a fringe top 100 pick, but after his performance today, I don't see him falling out of the second round. I think you're looking at a total gem with Gustavo Armas, the lefty, who pitched the final 4 innings of this game. He did not allow a single base runner, recording the win for Venezuela. I'm really excited to scout him more. We only have him at 35%, but he looks like a really intriguing prospect. Again, good strikeouts and walks per 9, good control, throws very hard. I don't think his breaking ball is as good as Bo Tejera's, but it is pretty solid for an 18-year-old. So let's bring your attention back to the big league club. We've got a 3-game set at home against the Atlanta Braves, who obviously look like a World Series contender. So I want to see what they're all about. We're going to play this second game as we end up losing the first one 10-0. Yikes. The offense sucked. Edward Cabrera didn't pitch well. So that'll bring us into game 2. The offense right now is dreadful. We have not scored more than 3 runs within any of the last 10 games. And right now we have the worst offense in the National League. But on the bright side, Sandy Alcantara is pitching today, the reigning National League Cy Young winner. He'll be going up against Max Fried, who finished in second for the NL Cy Young last year, as we take a look at the lineups for both teams. Here is Sandy Alcantara, who's been honestly even better than he was last year through 6 starts. 4-1, 1.74 ERA, .87 whip. It really looks like he will be challenging to win another Cy Young award. The Braves do have a very good offense, and Alcantara's going to have his hands full today as the young shortstop Vaughn Grissom singles into center. So with one away, the Braves get themselves an early base runner. That'll bring up Austin Riley, the big third baseman, who grounds it up the middle. Alcantara to Iglesias. Over to Cooper. 1-6-3, inning-ending double play. Good work by the defense as we go into the bottom of the first. Take a look at Max Fried, who finished second for the NL Cy Young a year ago. 3.64 ERA, 1.13 whip in 7 starts. He's been good, but not quite as good as Sandy Alcantara. He'll be facing off against Jazz Chisholm, the fellow lefty, with 2 away. And he gets him looking on the fastball. That looked like ball 4. That pitch clearly lower than the strike zone, but Jazz does not get the call as we go into the second. Ronald Acuna swings and misses at the 98-mile-an-hour fastball. That'll bring up the former Marlin, Marcell Ozuna, who goes down on the slider. Sandy Alcantara strikes out 2 and retires the side here in the second as we go to the bottom half of the inning. Jorge Soler, who won the World Series MVP in 2021 with these Atlanta Braves, he goes down looking on the fastball. Max Fried has had some really nice pitches early in this game, specifically with the fastball. Into the third, Travis d'Arnaud draws a walk, and the Braves get a leadoff runner aboard. That will bring up Orlando Arcia. Only hitting 198 this year, and that average will not go up as he grounds into a 4-6-3 double play. The Marlins infield makes quick work of it to retire 2. That'll bring up Eli White, the 9th hitter within the order, and he goes down on the low fastball. Another great inning from Sandy Alcantara, who looks great, per usual, through 3. Into the bottom of the third, 2 away for Luis Ariz, who hits this one into left, and that'll drop for a hit. The Marlins finally get their first base runner of the day in what has been a true pitching duel up to this point. Jean Segura next up for the Marlins. Count is full, and Segura grounds this one to short. Braves field it pretty cleanly, and we have no score through 3. Can either offense get anything going in the fourth? Ozzie Albies leads it off for the Braves. He hits this one well into right center field. Chisholm looks to get over to it quickly, but not before Ozzie Albies makes his way to second for a double. The Braves, now the runner in scoring position, with nobody out and the heart of the order due up. 1 away for Riley. He swings and misses at the 12-6 curve. That would have been ball 4 if he looked, but instead Riley chases it for the strikeout. Now Ronald Acuna's up with an opportunity to end the inning. 1-2 count. Alcantara looking to fool him on the outside slider, and he does! Good work by Sandy Alcantara to get out of the inning, and the Braves are still scoreless through 4. Into the bottom of the fourth, Garrett Cooper up for the Marlins, hitting over 300 through the first month of the year. Gets that one to third. Riley with an incredible play, and he is out of there. Great play by Austin Riley at the hot corner. 2 away now for Jorge Soler. Has a full count. Pitch on its way here from his former teammate Max Fried, and he strikes out on the fastball. 4 scoreless innings for both Sandy Alcantara and Max Fried. Will either offense finally get on the board here in the 5th inning? Matt Olson leads it off for Atlanta. Olson lines it to first. Cooper does a good job of deflecting it with his body, but his toss to Alcantara is offline. That'll be ruled as a throwing error against Garrett Cooper, and the Braves start the inning with a base runner. That'll bring up Marcell Ozuna with a weak dribbler. Alcantara looks to make the play, but he cannot throw him out in time. So the Braves are lucky to get these 2 base runners, and now have multiple guys on base with nobody out. Travis d'Arnaud rips it into center. Chisholm cannot make the play. This ball into the cap. The Braves should be able to score one. An unearned run is across. Remember, Olson reached off of an error, and it's now 1-0 with an RBI double from Travis d'Arnaud. The Braves have 2 runners in scoring position with no outs. How is Sandy going to get out of this jam? With 1 away, White lines it to first. What a catch by Garrett Cooper, showing off the bunnies for the second out of the inning. And now the Braves are going to need a base hit to get these runs in. It'll be Ozzie Albies who hits this one well into right. Brian De La Cruz will make the play. The Braves do score 1, an unearned run off of an RBI double by Travis d'Arnaud as we go into the bottom of the 5th. Marlins still held off the scoreboard with only 1 base hit so far as Gurriel lines out to third. Riley makes another nice defensive play for the first out of the inning. That'll bring up Brian De La Cruz, who's gotten off to a pretty disappointing start this year, hitting under 200 at the moment. Full count, he draws a walk on the inside fastball. Tough pitch to lay off, and now the Marlins have a runner aboard, as that'll bring up the shortstop Jose Iglesias, who also has struggled offensively through the first month of the year. He thinks about swinging, doesn't, and it pays off as he draws a walk. So the Marlins now have 2 runners aboard. That'll bring up the catcher Nick Fortes, who's got a full count here with 1 away. 3-2 pitch on its way, and that is a ball 4. So Max Fried walks the bases loaded. What an opportunity for Jean Segura with the bases loaded and 2 away as he grounds it up the middle. Albies makes a nice play, flips it over to short. At first glance, I thought that was going to be a base hit. Probably would have scored 2, but that is not to be the case. Still 1-0 going into the 6th as Vaughn Grissom goes down looking on the 12-6 curve. Sandy Alcantara continuing to dominate as neither of these pitchers have an earned run allowed today. Austin Riley then goes down looking on the circle change. Another strikeout for Alcantara. That'll bring us to the bottom of the 6th. Both pitchers are over 100 pitches today, but neither of them are showing any signs of slowing down. Garrett Cooper hits this one high and deep into left field, and that one is gone into the bullpen. Solo home run for Garrett Cooper, his 3rd of the year, and the Marlins are finally on the board as this game is tied at 1. Max Fried took a shutout into the 6th inning, but the Marlins finally respond, and we've got ourselves a game. The Braves are not going to take any more chances. They're going to take Fried out of the game. Ian Anderson will come in to replace him. 5.48 ERA out of the bullpen this year for Anderson as he starts with Jazz Chisholm. He's been pretty quiet today so far, currently 0 for 2, as Chisholm goes down looking again. Once again, that pitch did not look like a strike, but Chisholm does not get the call. That'll bring up Jorge Soler, the World Series hero from 2 years ago with the Braves. He draws a walk. So the Marlins get another base runner. We'll see if they can look to take the lead with Jesus Sanchez coming in off the bench as he grounds this one. Albies makes a really nice play, but Sanchez is safe at first with an infield single, and the Marlins now have 2 aboard. A base hit would certainly give them the lead. That'll bring up Jose Iglesias. Drew a walk in his last at-bat. Iglesias grounds it to 3rd. Riley sends it over to 2nd. So the Marlins leave 2 runners aboard, but they are finally on the board with a home run from Cooper. Sandy Alcantara still in the game here in the 7th, nearly at 120 pitches as he strikes out Marcell Ozuna. That'll bring in Travis d'Arnaud, who drove in a run his last at-bat as he singles it into center despite a nice diving effort from Gene Segura. That pitch count is getting really high. It's at around 125 now. Orlando Arcia is up as that one is past Fortes, a wild pitch, and the Braves now the runner in scoring position. A base hit here would certainly drive them in. Full count, 2 outs, runner on 2nd. The pitch for Arcia. This one is lofted into left center field. This ball is out of here into the Clevelander. 2-run homer for Orlando Arcia, and the Braves take a 3-1 lead. The Marlins kept Alcantara in despite being over 120 pitches, and that decision backfires. Alcantara's day comes to a close, 6 2/3 innings. The Braves scored 3, only 2 of which were earned, the 2 that the Braves just drove in off the homer by Arcia. Out of the bullpen to replace him will be the lefty Tanner Scott, who's been very good this year, only allowing 1 run in just under 12 innings so far, as the Marlins hope he can get them out of the inning. Eli White is up for the Braves. He draws a walk. White has 99 speed, by the way, so it's a little concerning that he is now on base. That'll bring up Ozzie Albies, the 3-2. He draws a walk as well. So the Braves get 2 aboard off of a pair of walks. And now that'll bring up Vaughn Grissom, the 1-2. Grissom lines it into right. That'll go for a base hit. White scores with no issue. And Atlanta now leads 4-1 as Tanner Scott cannot get the Marlins out of this inning. That'll bring up Austin Riley, who weakly pops this one up. Cooper should be under it to make the play. And he will, but not before the Braves score 3. Still a big inning, nonetheless, for the Braves as they drive in 3 and take a 4-1 lead. Colin McHugh checks in for Atlanta here in the bottom of the 7th. 1.38 ERA on the season. As with 2 away, he faces off against the top of the order. That'll start with Gene Segura, who's got a hitter's-friendly 3-1 count, and he draws a walk. So the Marlins get themselves a base runner. That'll bring up Garrett Cooper, who homered in his last at-bat, rips it into center, nearly taking McHugh's head off. And that'll go for a single. So the Marlins get 2 runners aboard and 2 away with Jazz Chisholm up at the plate. And the Braves are going to make a strategic pitching change with the lefty Dylan Lee into the game. This puts a lefty-on-lefty matchup into effect. But Jazz Chisholm doesn't care about your analytics. Chisholm rips it into left center. 1 run will score. Cooper rounds 3rd, heads home. The throw from the cutoff man is not in time. A 2-run double for Jazz Chisholm. That'll put the Marlins back in the game as it's now 4-3. And now Jorge Soler, who rakes against lefties, is up to the plate. The tying run in scoring position, but Soler strikes out, frustrated with himself. A big inning for both teams. The Braves score 3. The Marlins respond with 2 of their own as we go into the 8th. The lefty, Steven Okert, is in for Miami. 3.63 ERA on the year. And speaking on lefty matchups, this time it's Matt Olson who gets it to one hop off the wall in left center for a double. So Olsen is in scoring position with one away. We'll see if the Braves can drive them in and look to regain their big lead. Marcell Ozuna rips it into left field. The Braves should be able to make it 5-3 as Olsen will score. Ozuna heads for second, and he is out of there. Marlins throw out another base runner today as Ozuna is sent back to the dugout. Good play by Jorge Soler. Clearly feeling himself, but the Braves still score there. They will only drive in that one run as d'Arnaud strikes out, ending the inning. So the Braves add another one on the board. It's 5-3 going into the bottom of the 8th. Raisel Iglesias is in for Atlanta. He is not allowed to run so far this year, and Atlanta is certainly hoping he can keep that up as he starts with Yuli Gurriel, who's 0 for 3 today. Gurriel draws a walk, however. That's a tough pitch to lay off. I honestly thought that pitch was a strike, but I guess not. Joey Wendell, the pinch hitter, up with one away, takes advantage of his opportunity coming in off the bench as he singles into center. The Marlins have 2 runners aboard. The tying run is on first, and that'll bring up the catcher, Nick Fortes. Grounds this one weakly into right, but it'll go for a hit, and the bases are now loaded. The tying run is in scoring position. The go-ahead run is on first, and that'll bring up Luis Arraez. The 1-2. Arraez hits it into right. It will be caught, but that should be more than enough room to tag up the runner. It's Gurriel, who is barely safe. So it's a sacrifice fly for Luis Arraez, and it's now 5-4 with the other runner on third and another pitching change for Atlanta. Nick Anderson is into the game as he faces off against Gene Segura. 2-2 count, 2 outs, runners on the corners. 1-run game here in the bottom of the 8th as Segura lines it high and deep in the left center field, and it is caught. So the Braves score 1 in the top half of the inning. The Marlins score 1 in the bottom half of the inning. A.J. Puck is now in out of the bullpen for Miami. 4.15 ERA on the season as the Braves start off with a bang. Orlando Arcia, who homered in his last at-bat, rips it into right field for a double. What was once a pitching duel has now turned into an offensive shootout. Both of these bullpens have really struggled. E.Y. White lines it into right. Arcia is going to score. The Braves now lead 6-4. White thought about 3, but will stay at second with a double. And so far, A.J. Puck does not look very good. He's already allowed 1 run. The Braves are looking for more, and they're going to get more. Ozzie Albies lines it into left. That'll go for a double, and the Braves are now up 7-4 as their offense has caught fire early here in the 9th inning. 2 away now for Ronald Acuna. Crushes it into left field, and that might be your dagger. A home run, 2-run shot for Ronald Acuna. The Braves with a 4 spot here in the 9th inning as they lead 9-4. Let's go bottom 9, 2 on, 2 out. 1-2 count for Jesus Sanchez, who pops it into right field. Should be caught by Acuna, and it will. The Braves win this one 9-4. It started as a pitcher's duel. There were no earned runs allowed by either pitcher until the bottom of the 6th inning. But then after that, both offenses played really well. Both starting pitchers, Alcantara and Fried, were phenomenal. Both bullpens were completely dreadful, but the Braves' bullpen was a little less awful than ours as they take this one home by the final score of 9-4 here in Miami. The Braves' offense was not good for most of this game, but once they were able to knock Alcantara out, they really got going, particularly in that 9th inning in which they scored 4 runs. Max Fried was really good. Their bullpen, like ours, was pretty bad, but at least their bullpen wasn't as bad. It sucks that we wasted a completely great Sandy Alcantara start with the bullpen struggling and the offense not showing up until the 6th inning and beyond. If there is one positive, though, we scored more than 3 runs for the first time in a week and a half. So I guess that's cool. We're going to wrap up this series against Atlanta, simulating a 3-game set in Chicago, 3 against Arizona, and then 3 at home against Cincinnati. So another 10-game stretch that we're going through, and we ended up going 7-3. We won the last game against the Braves. We took 2 against Chicago, 2 against the Diamondbacks, and then 2 against the Reds. Now, yes, the Diamondbacks, Cubs, and Reds are all not great, but it is good to see the team winning baseball games consistently. We're 20-21, only 2 games back at the second wild card. I really don't want to worry about the standings yet because it's May, but it is good seeing that this team looks like they are going to be competitive through the summer months. In the next episode, we're going to take our first look into the farm system as we take a look at a AA and AAA game while still giving some time and attention to the big league team as well. That'll wrap up today's episode. Let me know what you thought of the scouting portion, about my settings, and anything else you have thoughts about down below in the comments section. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And of course, don't forget to use code Octagonal Gaming for $20 off your first SeatGeek order. Peace out.